Sometimes there are some students who do not understand the content of the materials that have been written by themselves, or they do not want to read the materials that have been written in their book. As students, sometimes we find it difficult to find the important points or the summaries of the materials that have been written in our book, right? Especially if we have a lot of notes on the page and notice it is getting harder to find what we are looking for. Actually, it happened to me. Sometimes I have the problem in finding my notes. I am bored and lazy to read my notes because my notes is monotone and unattractive, and there were also notes written only in a black pen. So you can see this example. I think this is the example of the notes that is monotone, so that I'm not interested to read it. All of you here, guys, have you ever experienced something like me, lazy and dizzy to read my notes? However, I always think why I'm not interested in reading my notes, and I think it becomes useless, right? But after I realized that it's very useless and I had spent time to write, but I didn't want to read it. I decided to make my notes as interesting as possible so that I would be interested in reading my notes while studying or preparing the exams. So now I'm going to share you tips and tricks for making your notes aesthetic or pretty notes so that you will be interested in reading your notes. The first thing you should do when making a pretty notes is structuring your notes. Structuring your notes is very important. Make a system to make you find your notes back easily. You can also use the table content in your notes. For example, if you are in the first meeting with your teacher, and then you can write the topic that you will learn from the first meeting until the last. So you can see this is the example of the table contents to make your notes is more organized. The second is divide your notes so that your notes is structured, starting from the title, heading, content, or other stuff, so that you can easily find the main points in your notes. The third is using fonts. There are various style of fonts that you can put in your notes. For example, if you want to distinguish the types of font in the title or subheading to make you easily find the main point in your notes. You can also use the bold or italic to make your note attractive. And then the next is use a color scheme. If you have a color scheme, and it will make it more organized and put together, I highly recommend you to use a set of color pens because it is very useful and gives more varieties and choices. If you do not prepare to use a set of color pens, you can also use a black pen or a Stabilo highlighter. So it will make your notes is attractive. Sometimes using colors is probably obvious, but colors make your notes attractive, right? After you do a color scheme, the first is write the title and add different colors in each page. The second is use a color pen to make the main subject stand out. And the third is highlight certain terms that you need to remember or the important points. And the last is use a highlighter in every different topics. So for example, when you want to color your notes, the title is the black one, or the subheading is on the blue one, it will make your notes more attractive, right? So the next is you can use diagrams or tables or formulas. You can write the formulas in structured notes. For example, when you write the formulas in simple present, past tense, you can also use the table or diagram to make it easier to distinguish the formulas, right? So beside you can use the diagram, you can also mind map your notes to make you easier to find the important points in your notes. The last but not least is using symbols. There are various kinds of symbols such as arrows, bullets, hearts, brackets, and others. Try to use symbols to enhance your writing. You can throw the numbers or dots instead of using the symbols, right? So after you follow the tips and tricks on how to make a pretty note, so the result of your notes is kind of like this. So starting from the title and the subheading, they have different colors, and then using symbols and then diagram, and then you can summarize your notes. Okay, in conclusion, making your notes interesting is very important. It is because it will make your notes is not monotone, attractive, and also it will make you to stay motivated to study. And the interesting notes make you not bored when you are studying. Thank you.